Voices that inspire, conversations that matter. Podcasts, Innovation and Change NYC. Follow us and become part of our global community of dialogue, ideas, and change.
Good evening, I'm Tamar. Welcome to podcast Innovation and Change NYC. From New York City to global perspectives, our podcasts serve as a platform for critical reflection, knowledge exchange, and forward-looking dialogue. Founded by Tamar Makharashvili, Nanuka Tevzadze, Sofia Akhlediani, and Ekaterina Mourhulia, the podcasts bring together diverse professional expertise and interdisciplinary perspectives developed across the education, healthcare, social, and business sectors. What began as shared conversations evolved into collective vision to create a space where innovation is not abstract, change is not performative, and voices, especially women's voices, are heard with depth and respect. We explore how innovation, when grounded in human values, can drive meaningful, sustainable changes across communities, institutions, and societies. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Barbara Ann Michaels, performance artist, creative facilitator, keynote speaker, and founder of HumorWell, an immersive initiative focused on humor, wellness, creativity, and human connection in the heart of New York. For more than 30 years, she has developed interactive experiences across corporate, cultural, academic, and community settings. Her work has reached audiences internationally and continues to promote the importance of creativity, shared experiences, and emotional well-being in today's fast-changing world. She is a graduate of Brown University, College of Arts and Design, and One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, and serves as the ambassador of Global Play Brigade and member of the World Experience Organization. Her mission is to put humor back in the medicine cabinet for generations to come. Barbara, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Hello, I'm Ekaterina, and thank you, Barbara, for being with us. Today's episode focuses on a powerful and deeply human theme, humor. Humor is human. It accompanies us throughout life. Yet in the complexity of our daily routines, we often forget its value. Today, we intentionally pause to remember, because humor is not only a source of joy, but a vital element that strengthens both our personal and professional lives, profoundly and playfully.
Hello again, I'm Nanuka. It's a pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest. Barbara's work integrates humor, art, love as a unified pathway to well-being, and she continues to empower others globally through her initiative of ordaining Gestures of the Peace to bring humor and wellness into their own communities.
Hello, I'm Sofia. Today's discussion will explore several interconnecting themes. We will examine humor as a force for restoration, its relationship with the art and love, its role on strengthening both individual and communities.
Barbara, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Your work reflects a unique and inspiring professional trajectory. Could you share with us the experiences that shaped your journey? In particular, how did you come to embody the role of Gesture of Peace?
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with you, and congratulations to all of us for the very first podcast. I became the Jester of the Peace when I was a wedding officiant. I was serving couples who needed to do very unusual things in order to feel authentic. Sometimes in a wedding, people need to express their tradition or they won't feel real. But there's this whole other group of people who are really driven by creativity and self-expression, who need to do things like a helicopter wedding or a costume wedding or something that might seem unusual, but it's actually not. It's actually true for them to express themselves in that way. And I was the officiant who was officiating those weddings. I did about 560 weddings. And because of that, in the US, a person who officiates weddings can be called a Justice of the Peace. And so I was given the name Jester of the Peace because I was a clown theater artist, a humorist, And so it's a pun on justice of the peace, to be a jester of the peace. That's how I got the name. How I ended up being a person who represents humor for humanity and humor for the journey of life started when I was a child, because when I was a little kid, I would use humor in order to make connection between people who felt like there was some separation or some distance between them. And I found that if I used humor, whether it was someone I was meeting for the first time and trying to make a friend, or family members who needed to be closer together, I found that I could rely on a very particular kind of humor in order to bring them together. And that kind of humor is laughing with each other, because humor can also, we can either use it to hurt or we can use it to heal. And if we laugh at each other, it can be divisive. But if we laugh with each other, it brings us together, amplifies love, and has people feel seen, heard, and celebrated. So be able to have access to being more of who they are. And it turns out that my entire career has been about, in one way or the other, using humor to have people come back together, come to themselves, and come back to each other by laughing with each other over and over and over again.
And thank you. That is incredibly insightful. Reflecting on your journey, was there a specific moment or turning point when you recognized that humor was not only meaningful to you personally, but something you wanted to use to support others?
I started interviewing people about stories from their lives that were hard then that are funny now. And I realized that any time that we can laugh with a story from our journey, it's like we get re-healed all over again, because there's something about laughing with what has happened. Not that the original thing becomes funny, because it usually doesn't, but something along the journey has found humor. When that happens, when we feel better telling the story, when we laugh or smile, when we bring energy to ourselves or others by telling this tale, it's very empowering for our own self, but it also is a celebration of our resilience with other people. And I don't think that we walk around understanding how powerful it is to tell stories from our own lives that were hard then that are funny now to other people. When we do that, everyone can catch some hope. I have a story about a friend of mine named Jared who almost drowned when he was 9 or 10 years old. And then for the next 40 years, he pretended to know how to swim. If not that he would be in the water, but if his friends were going out boating or something, he'd say, "Oh, I just want to drive the boat," or "I want to make the picnic today," or whatever he could do to be near water but not be in it. And then when he finally was going to turn 50, he learned how to swim so that he could do a triathlon to finally beat this thing, but also celebrate who he wanted to be. And he taught his son how to swim at the same time. And he finds it funny today that he spent 40 years not swimming. However, if we take that out, what else has anybody spent 5 or 10 or 20 years or 40 years not doing that we could have done if we'd been able to find some laughter in the journey earlier and been able to restore our personal power about the situation, our feeling of freedom, our feeling of possibility and permission. Finding laughter with the journey brings all of those things. And when I really understood that, it felt it vitally necessary to be a messenger for that, because humor is the underappreciated force of wellness in the world and across the world, because in all languages and in all cultures, we laugh. Human beings laugh before we talk. And so we all laugh in the same language, which predates whatever language we're also speaking.
Barbara, from a broader systems perspective, humor can be both constructive and harmful depending on its use. How do we navigate this complexity? How can humor be applied responsibly in social and professional contexts?
I'm really glad we're bringing this question back around, because laughing with each other versus at each other is one of the most pivotal differences in being able to use humor for love. And we think about kids, they're on the playground, they're saying, "Aha, blah, blah, yeah, yeah," like the things that kids make fun of each other. However, I have found that it's possible to shift a room, even of adults. If, say someone falls down and others are making fun of them, like, "You fell down," but that you can see that the person's not laughing too. You can see that if the person's laughing too and they're in on it, great. If everyone's laughing equally. However, if the person who fell if you can see it on someone's face, like they're wincing a little bit, or you can see it in their eyes, or you can see it in their body language. If you can see that they don't feel good about this, it's possibly like, oh yeah, you know what? When I was in 4th grade, I fell off the stage while I was playing the violin, and nobody ever let me forget it for 16 years, which is actually true. I did fall off the stage while playing the violin in the orchestra because I was looking at, this is when I was like 10 or something. I was looking at boys on the other side of the orchestra who are also playing the violin, and I fell off the stage while I was doing that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But you can hear in my voice that I think that's super funny now. But if in this situation I can say, oh yeah, you fell. I remember when I fell. And this silly story about my violin, which I've told many, many times, and people still bring it up to me when I go to reunions. It's possible to diffuse all of the tension in the room by doing that. Because if you show compassion for the person who's we might say the butt of the joke, or the person who's being made fun of, it's possible to change the energy by sharing a story that relates to what has happened for them, and the whole room can shift. And not every time, many times, and it's worth trying.
You often emphasize that you did not invent humor or wellness, but that you are a modern voice for it. Could you expand on this perspective?
Yeah, we are designed physiologically and psychologically to use humor for well-being. So something difficult happens, and then it's too soon. In American comedy, there's a phrase called too soon, and it means just we're not ready to find laughter with that. So you'll hear comedians say, oh, too soon? Too soon? If they say something that's really edgy. So something difficult happens, and it's too soon. Then there's this moment, and this is not every story, because I'll put my hand on my heart and for all the stories, and we all can, really, for all the stories that won't find humor in this lifetime or in this generation or for many generations. But everything that hurts wants to heal. And so something happens, it's difficult, it's too soon, and then the first laugh shows up. When the first laugh shows up, it could be so small, just be like, or like even smaller, like whatever it's going to be. And that's the moment when the first tiny little bit of laughter arises, when we put space around the pain for the first time and the heart has hope. Because before that little speck of laughter shows up, it can feel emotionally impossible that laughter will ever come to light in this story that has happened. And then the story starts to cook, and eventually we end up, when we can finally tell the story that was hard then that's funny now, and these are some of the metrics, right? It brings someone energy when they're telling the story. They laugh or smile. You can see the energy in their face. Other people around them start to relax. Like you can see how it goes. That's when we can inspire other people. That's when someone can catch hope from us. And it's really important to understand that this foundational journey is central to all humans across the entire world, because we're designed to turn to humor over and over and over again to find restoration. And as long as humor is stuck in the entertainment industry, or we think, oh, well, it's inappropriate to laugh ever. It's not inappropriate to laugh ever. It might be too soon, but as soon as the first laugh shows up, we actually have to let it. I think that sometimes we might even try to hold the laugh in, because it feels like, how could I ever find laughter with this situation? What? I mean, one example of this is war is terrible all the time. It's just all the time. It's always terrible. And we would never think we would ever find any humor about war, except that there's so many funny movies about war, so many funny stories, so many people recounting their experiences of being in wars with humor. And it's because people are finding freedom through laughter, and we actually have to allow ourselves to do it and reclaim it.
Barbara, your work goes beyond engagement. It creates transformation. And that's brilliant. What, in your view, makes an experience truly transformational?
So as an experience designer, and an interactive artist for 30 years, what I've come to understand is that in an experience, if people both laugh and cry, it will feel transformational, as long as there's more than one emotional state. And part of the reason for this is, if you think about laughter, it's like, when was the last time someone laughed until they cried? You laugh and you laugh and you laugh. And the greatest laughs are the ones that end up in tears. And that's how you know the laughter has resolved itself, because you're crying. And it's the same with crying. You cry and cry and cry, and it results in laughter eventually. and you laugh and laugh and laugh, and it results in tears. So you cry until you laugh, and you laugh until you cry. It's actually one spectrum. And to be able to internalize that and know that and share that, it's really important. It can almost feel like a surprise to really realize that, even though it's natural for all people everywhere. It is something that we can teach each other and share. So I didn't invent it. I'm a modern voice for it because of the entertainment industry and where laughter absolutely belongs. And it also belongs around the dinner table, and it also belongs at a picnic, and it also belongs walking down the street, and it also belongs on the telephone call. And it also belongs holding hands with a dear friend, and it belongs in a hug. It belongs when people are in their deepest, darkest place. They're not ready for laughter. But as soon as anyone has one iota where they're reaching for hope, then laughter can be on the scene, and laughter can be a healing force.
From a practical standpoint and from your valuable experience that you can share for us and for the listeners, can you tell us, please, what is one simple way individuals can begin to integrate humor into their everyday lives?
Oh, yeah, that would be telling stories to each other that are hard then that are funny now. I encourage everyone on this podcast, everyone listening to this podcast, and everyone who will ever listen to this podcast to today have a conversation with someone about stories from both of your lives that were hard then that are funny now. And hard can be anything from mildly irritating all the way to devastating. And funny can be anything from the tiniest little smile in the heart all the way to super funny. And so there's a very broad range. And if we get with each other, and it's a great dinner table topic. It's great when people are coming together who haven't seen each other in a long time. It's amazing at family reunions when people are telling stories that were hard then that are funny now across generations. So ask people of different ages, different backgrounds, different experiences. Have a shared conversation about what was hard then that's funny now, and you will find that you feel closer together with that person and feel inspired by that person's journey, and that person will feel inspired by your journey. And I can just about almost guarantee it.
What about in terms of evaluation? How can we understand whether humor is improving our quality of life? How do we measure its impact?
The way to measure the impact of humor is, do we feel more peaceful with our life journey? We all know inside ourselves whether we're at peace with ourselves or not. Are we at peace? Are we at greater peace with the people around us? Do we take action, like my friend who decided to learn swimming? Do we take action where we might not have in the past? That's one of the best ways to know is, are we doing something that we might not have done in the past because something hurt and now we've been able to free it through laughter? I have another story where a woman, she was probably in her 30s when this happened. She came to an experience I was holding about self-expression, and she took the stage and she presented some of the story of her life. And at the end, she revealed that she hadn't been willing to speak publicly since she was 5 years old because one of her mentors or a teacher or something gave her the idea that she wasn't good at it. And so she held herself back for, that would have been about 30 years, and then went on to speak more and be a leader and have more leadership in her life. And it's not necessarily that moment. It's not that my moment on the stage with her did that. It's that people are ready for transformation. And when people are ready for transformation, if they happen across an experience that's both tender and humorous or serious and funny, then they can use it as transformation. It could have been mine, it could have been someone else's, but she was able to use the humorous moment in order to make that transformation in her life because she was ready for transformation. And I just over the years have studied and practiced creating an environment where if someone is ready for transformation, they have the possibility of having it here with me, with laughter and humor and well-being and art.
In leadership context, humor is often underutilized. How can leaders effectively integrate humor in their approach?
One of the ways is leaders are often doing public speaking. And the absolute, in my opinion, best time to say something really serious is right after everyone laughed. Because after the whole room laughs, then everybody's minds are open and free and clear. Nobody's thinking about anything. They're uplifted. Their hearts are open. And that is the best time to say the most serious thing someone has to say, because everyone will be able to hear it. And sometimes the most important thing we have to say gets buried under facts and structures and however emotionally we remember things that touch us emotionally. And so in public speaking or in guiding or in transferring a vision to a group of people, to plant that most serious thing right after having the room have a big laugh will help make sure that everyone takes home the message that we really want to take home. And that's also where transformation can happen. Because when people's hearts are open and their minds are open and they're breathing, then we have the opportunity to make a shift.
Barbara, one of the important aspects is sustaining resilience. And over time, it's critical. Why is humor so important for long-term resilience?
Humor journeys with us, and it's important for us to journey with it also. And humor is always around. It's like air. It's the possibility of it is ever present. And in order to have resilience, I can have resilience with my own self. I mean, there is a very silly story of a time I was looking for my keys like all over the place, and they turned out to be in my teeth. I know that sounds just ridiculous, but it's actually true.
That's funny.
I know, it's hilarious. It's totally ridiculous. And I mean, how many times has anybody looked for their glasses and they're on their own head? I mean, it's just, it's possible to find humor with oneself. This is another story about keys. I was trying to start my car one time and I was wearing gloves because it was Portland, Maine, and I was living there in the winter. And I was trying to start my car and the key got stuck through my gloves. And then I was trying to turn the key, but it was coming through the material of my gloves and it wasn't working. And I just had to be like, this is nuts. I'm just going to stop and find humor in this moment. And we all have the tiny moments like that, but then there's also bigger ones. And one of the most important things to understand about humor is that it's ultimately a community practice. Like me telling those very ridiculous stories just now, somebody's going to get a laugh about that. Someone's going to be able to take their own thing less seriously. I mean, I fell off the stage playing the violin when I was in 4th grade because I was looking at boys. That's just so young and innocent and funny and silly. However, I didn't stop playing the violin. But I could have been like, I am so mortified about this experience that I'm never going to play the violin again. And I'm never going to go on stage again because it's unsafe, because I might fall off the stage and everyone might laugh at me. That's a very childish mindset. However, adults always have the child within that's still holding on to the thing that hurt. And so
that's absolutely right.
Yeah. If I had if I had said, okay, that's it, I wouldn't have a career. I wouldn't be on this podcast. I wouldn't have been an improv person, a clown. I wouldn't have been a stilt walker. I wouldn't have taught children clown theater. I wouldn't have been a pediatric hospital clown. I wouldn't have Humorville. I wouldn't be a keynote speaker. I wouldn't represent humor and wellness. I wouldn't have been in countless festivals. I wouldn't be using humor for joy. I wouldn't be myself. If I had stopped myself, I wouldn't be myself. I would have been a different version of myself, but not one that's authentic as I am. And there's always more to go. There's always more for me to discover, always more to let go. And humor helps us let go of the past so that we can be in the present, so that we can create the future. And it's really important to do this as a community and really take to heart the laughing with each other versus laughing at each other. And we can just start to see it, right? It's when people are laughing with each other, they feel closer together. So if there's a humorous situation, people feel closer together, then you know that it's a laughing with situation. If there's humor present and people feel farther apart, we know it's a laughing at. And it's not that laughing at is never the right thing, because sometimes it's right on time. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it needs to shake something up. However, the vast majority of the time, laughing with is going to accomplish what's really needed, which is people returning to loving themselves and each other, which is what creates resilience, which is what creates a better world. And I don't mean better world in a everything's perfect kind of a way. I mean that humor helps us make what's great greater and what's hard better.
Absolutely. So it's a very important aspect that you have underlined.
Thank you for sharing all those amazing stories. But as a child falling off from the stage and never stopping playing the violin was so amazing. I mean, thank you for sharing that. And my next question is, looking ahead, it's very interesting for me. How do you see the role of humor evolving in an increasingly technological world?
No matter how much technology we have, the human heart is never going to work any differently, ever. Not in all of human
That's
history.
right.
Not in all of human history. I mean, if you look at all the inventions that have had already, the human heart's not working any differently because we have a telephone. The human heart is not working any differently because we have agriculture. It's not working any differently because we have a computer. It's not working any differently because we have electricity. The human heart will work the same always throughout all time. And the human heart needs to be seen and heard and celebrated. And so being seen and heard, I've come to understand that being seen and heard is not enough, because it's possible to be seen and heard and rejected. And I do believe that sometimes people, especially young people, can turn to violence or aggression as a solution because they feel seen, heard, and rejected. And I actually have a belief that sometimes that's why young people turn to gun violence, which is very sad and a very intense situation. But I do believe that people sometimes feel seen, heard, and rejected, and then there's nowhere else to go because people feel so isolated that what are you going to do? You have to release the tension somehow, and it can come out in aggression. Being seen, which is what happens when too much laughing at is around. When we're laughing with each other, it's creating being seen, heard, and celebrated. And that's where connection happens. That's where people feel permission to be more of who they are. Humor is a phenomenal liberator. And it's vitally important to walk with it and walk with it with each other. And AI makes jokes. I have talked to AI, and AI has made jokes with me. And I've been like, wow, AI, that's really funny. But you know what? AI is based on all of human history that's been recorded. So it's only reflecting humans back to humans.
Exactly.
Humans are funny. And I predict that AI will just get funnier and funnier if it's meant to help people, and if it's meant to bring out the humanity or reflect humanity back to ourselves. So we don't have to worry that humor is going away. However, there's fear about what's happening in the world because of technology, and humor can help with that. We can find a way to have humor with our fears, laugh about the singularity. Whatever fears are coming to the fore, we can transmute them by naming them and having a laugh about it, understanding that the human heart is never going to work any differently. We're safe emotionally. We're humans. And what I mean by that is that we can rely on the human heart to always reach for love, to always want connection, to always use humor for a reset, to always cry when it's sad, to always be angry when it's mad. The human heart's going to do what it's going to do, and humor for the journey is always going to apply. Now, I can imagine people trying to use AI for the first time. There's probably a lot of funny stories about that, just like when people were trying to figure out how to use a smartphone and not a flip phone, just like people were trying to figure out how to talk on the telephone for the first time. I mean, there's funny stories about adopting technology. Living with technology, there's funny stories about that too. I mean, the moment of the year 2000, when people all around the world thought that the world might end because computers couldn't handle going from 1999 to 2000, that's funny. It didn't happen. But it's an example of being able to laugh with a moment where the world was afraid of technology that can be applied today.
How do you think? What should individuals focus on right now in integrating humor into their lives?
I think it starts with letting humor be possible. And sometimes when someone is in a tremendous amount of pain, it can seem like humor is not possible. And in that case, it's just important to be patient and know that it could be coming in the future. And so it's compassionate, it's kind. Laughing with each other is kind, and it shows up right on time. You can't force open a flower. You can't force laughter. You can't force the humor to show up. We just wait, like the cycles of the earth. Spring arrives when it arrives. The first laugh arrives when it arrives. We can just hold each other knowing that it's possible. And then once it has arrived, to amplify it, to celebrate it. As the flower blooms, the laughter grows louder. As the colors pop in the spring, the joy in the heart can be a bit more free. And so if we imagine that the heart is like a flower about a story, and that the bud is the first laugh, and then the full bloom is being able to actually be seen by another person and being able to laugh with a story that was hard then that's funny now. Or using any of the arts. I mean, there's humor in dance, there's humor in theater, there's humor in visual art, there's humor in writing. Any of the art forms can bring it. To be able to know that it's important and real and true and necessary and deeply natural to laugh with the journey of life, to integrate that as part of the daily life, whether we find any today or not, to talk about it with others, to share those stories that are hard then that are funny now. Those are some of the things. It's about having humor in the medicine cabinet also. And next to everything else, is put humor in the medicine cabinet. That's one of the aims that I have with all this work, is to help people put humor in the medicine cabinet for generations.
Great. As we conclude, what is one message you would like to leave future change makers?
At Humorville, which is a tourist attraction in Brooklyn that I run, which combines 5 of the audience interactive artworks that I have been touring for over 10 to 15 years. And humorously, I didn't even realize I was creating a town. It's called the Tourist Attraction for Your Heart. It's the small town for self-expression. It has a public library, a marriage bureau, a post office, an elections board, and a phone company. And in the marriage bureau, you marry yourself, which is humorous. In the elections board, you vote yourself president of what you care about, also humorous. In the post office, you write yourself a letter. In the phone company, you call yourself on the phone and tell yourself everything you've been holding back. All of those are funny ways to have people be practicing aspirational humor with each other. And because it's so funny in here and so playful, people regularly talk about very serious things. Their desires for money and time and love and balance and serenity and more joy and more playfulness in a very serious way. But one of the things that happens here is that because it's so joyful and playful, if someone touches something serious, some loss or a pain from the past, they can spiral up with it and not spiral down, because the humor can hold the seriousness. And that's why I call it the tourist attraction for your heart, an immersive art installation. It is an immersive art installation, but I call it the tourist attraction for your heart, because if I called it an immersive art installation, people might come in with their seriousness. But it's really important for this experience to be successful that people come in their joy and playfulness. So I call it the tourist attraction for your heart, the small town for self-expression. Welcome to Humorville. Ha ha ha. And that's why that's one of the reasons why it's successful. And so the answer to this question is, may you walk with humor. At the end of every Humorville experience, I say to the community, everyone's called a Humorville citizen, because you become a citizen of Humorville when you come here. The last thing I say to everyone is, may you walk with humor. And then I invite people to say to each other, may you walk with humor. And what I really mean is, may you walk, dance, eat, sleep, wish, reach for the beyond, love. May you live with humor. May you eat with humor. Anything we can think of. May humor be part of our everyday. And so the humor as a life path, humor as a practice, that's Humorville exists in order to bring that message in a very playful form. And I'm also featuring other artists here who are also working on humor and wellness. This week, I'll be traveling, and I have an artist named Danielle Garcia who's going to be coming and doing a workshop on grief and joy, because that's on that theme of humor and wellness. And my aim here is really to have a community center. For this to be a community center, for there to be a movement for humor and wellness, for this place to be a community center for humor and wellness, so that the message, may you walk with humor, that we can walk with it like it's as natural as the bloom of a flower or the cloud in the sky.
Thank you, Barbara, for this insightful and truly inspiring conversation. For us, it's one of the most important podcasts, and thank you very much for being with us. You are doing huge work and impact that we truly see and appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the other things that I say at Humorville all the time is, you can only do it right at Humorville. And it's very funny, because there's a lot of expressive prompts in here, and I find that I have to say, you can only do it right. You can only do it right, think it right, draw it right, express it right, feel it right. I say it over and over and over and over again, because when people come here, if they feel like they're not doing it right, they'll be like, sorry, and I just keep on saying, you can only do it right at Humorville, until by the end, people are saying to me, you can only do it right at Humorville. And I'm glad that I'm coming around to this, because in addition to may you walk with humor, it's you can only do it right on the journey of life. Walking with humor, laughing with each other, doing our best. Sometimes humor fails, and even finding laughter with that. Nothing's perfect. We can try to find humor. We can try to find laughter with something, and it doesn't go right. But as long as we know we have good intentions, we can find humor even with that, and to find humor, and to find shared joy, to find mutual uplift, to find restoration with each other.
Absolutely. And this is what we need right now.
Yes, it is exactly what everyone on earth needs: humor for restoration right now. And so I believe that the message of humor and wellness is deeply timely, and it's something that all of us can practice every single day, in the smallest thing to the biggest thing, to whether it's speaking to a large crowd or eating a cracker. I mean, it's possible to find humor anywhere and share it with each other. And the other thing is that if someone's walking with humor, then they're walking with a smile in their heart. And if someone has a smile in their heart, they have a smile in their eyes. And if they have a smile in their eyes, then they'll greet other people with love. They don't have to talk to the person. They don't have to share anything other than a glance, but we can tell when we pass someone by if their heart is open and they have love in their heart, because we feel better when we pass them by. And so walking with humor can mean even that, just the tiniest moment of sharing the phenomenal miracle of being alive together, because I do really believe that life is meant to be a celebration. That doesn't take anything away from the hard times, because the hard times are there. And even to find the miraculous in grief, to find the beauty in the entirety of the journey, that's what humor for wellness is for. That's ultimately what humor is for.
Thank you, Barbara, again. And I have to share my insights that I have a big smile on my face and I have only positive thoughts. And today's discussion has reminded us that meaningful innovation is always grounded in our shared humanity.
Yes, it's true. Humor is not secondary. It's essential to connection, resilience, and well-being. Thank you so much, Barbara, being with us today.
And as we move forward, may we carry this insight with intention and purpose.
And the only thing what I can add is that may you and us, we all walk with humor and spread it all over. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for brilliant podcast and for being our change maker. Thank you for joining Innovation and Change NYC. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please follow us for more.
Voices rising up, sharing stories.